Well, brothers and sisters, today we're finishing the Ten Commandments. Well, at least going through the main number. We'll have a conclusion of the commandments next time, but we're going to go through the story of David and Bathsheba. Now, this obviously mixes in with adultery and doesn't mesh entirely with our 10th commandment, but we can see this idea of coveting and desiring someone else's stuff and someone else's wife, especially in this case, and all the other evils that come from that. And we see that, sin doesn't sit in one place, you see, and it actually goes out and makes ripples. This is kind of the metaphysical problem, and this one's very real and tangible, but it's part of the metaphysical problem of thinking like, what happens at home stays at home, or it's like the right to privacy that's often used, that the community, the society doesn't have an interest in what happens in the bedroom or in a private realm, but these things actually impact the broader society, and sin kind of wiggles its way out, and it impacts people, right? Because sin distorts us, and then we go out and we carry that sin with us. So people living wickedly in the dark, their wickedness exudes from them as they go forth. And so we're going to look at this here in our story today. So let's just read this story and see what we hear. Now this is a pretty terrible story and of what happens here. So then it happens one evening that David arose from his bed and walked on the roof of the king's house. Now, one thing we need to remind, this isn't the beginning of the chapter. He was supposed to be out at war. He had a place where he was supposed to be, and he wasn't there. Now, that's part of the problem, right? He's already shirking his duty, and so there might actually be a sense in which sin is already here. And now it's going further. There's a sort of sloth to King David. He's gotten a place of prestige, and now he's going further. David arose from his bed and walked on the roof of the king's house, and from the roof he saw a woman bathing, and that woman was very beautiful to behold. A lot of sins begin with the eyes. So David sent, and you see now it didn't avert his eyes. Instead, now he's sent and inquired. Right now he's thinking about it. He's mulling on this. And indeed, we kind of, in my post, I talked about these two kinds of coveting, and the one is desiring and actively pursuing this. And so this is kind of, and James also has that line where it kind of goes down. And we see now it's working its way out. So now he's inquiring about the woman, and then he gets the information about her, that she is Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite. And then David sent messengers and took her, and she came to him, and he lay with her. And she was cleansed from her impurity, before she was cleansed from her impurity, and she returned to her house. We don't know in this part that what all happened here, but we understand, right? David is the king. He has a lot of power, and so in a sense, he took her, and she did come to him, and he laid with her, but he took her. Now, the result of this wickedness, this evil, is the reality that I am with child. Now, the child is good. That's not evil. But this is a problem because this is an adulterous relationship. Right? Life is always good, even if the sin and the wickedness around it is all evil. And we see this evil just keep playing out now, because this is now actually a problem for David, right? The child is supposed to be a blessing, and the Bible again and again puts it as a blessing, but now for David it's actually an issue. David sent to Joab and said, "Send me Uriah the Hittite." Joab sent Uriah, and David, when Uriah had come to him, David asked out Joab. So he's now kind of playing the small talk game, how the war was going, and David said to Uriah, "Go down to your house and wash your feet." And you can see here his game is he's hoping that Uriah will sleep with his wife, and this whole thing might be kept under cover. Right now there's this sort of cover-up. A gift of food from the king followed him, but Uriah slept at the door of the king's house with all the servants and did not go down to his house. So when they told David, saying Uriah did not go down to his house, David said to Uriah, "Why did you not come from a journey? Or did you not come from a journey? Why did you not go down to your house?" And Uriah said to David, "The ark of Israel and Judah are dwelling in tents, and my lord Joab and my servants of my lord are encamped in the open field. Shall I go to my house and eat and drink and lie with my wife? As you live and as your soul lives, I will not do such a thing." Right? they kind of point back up to the top. David is doing exactly this while everyone else is out at war. Everyone else is doing the hard work. David is kind of just hanging out, and that's got him into trouble in the first place. So anyway, there's a bit of a skip here. I didn't want to go through it all. He fights with Uriah a bit, tries to get him to sleep with his wife, but that doesn't work. So in the morning, it happened that David wrote a letter to Joab and sent it by the hand of Uriah. Quite wicked. And he wrote in the letter saying, "Set Uriah in the forefront of the hottest battle and retreat from him, that he might be struck down and die." So it was that while Joab besieged the city, he assigned Uriah to the place he knew where the valiant men were. Then the men of the city came out and fought with Joab, and some of the people of the servants of David fell, and Uriah the Hittite also. You see, it wasn't even, this had like collateral damage. It wasn't just Uriah. There were other people who got caught in this as well, right? David has acted so wickedly, and it's led to deaths of multiple people. The harm of a woman. It's quite a horrendous activity that's going on here. And I didn't have this place, but it gets down here a bit later. The Lord was angered by this action, and we see it here. The Lord sent Nathan to David, and he came to him and said, "There were two men in one city, one rich and the other poor. The rich man had exceedingly many flocks and herds, but the poor man had nothing except one little ewe lamb, which he bought and nourished, and it grew up together with him and with his children. It ate of his own food and drank of his own cup and lay in his bosom, and it was like a daughter to him. There was great love between Uriah," well, we'll get there, "and a traveler came to the rich man, who refused to take from his own flock and from his own herd to prepare one for the wayfaring man who had come to him. But he took the poor man's lamb and prepared it for the man who had come." So David's anger was greatly roused against the man. He said to Nathan, "As the Lord lives, the man who has done this shall surely die, and he shall restore fourfold for the lamb, because he did this thing, and because he had no pity." Then Nathan said to David, "You are the man." We could go on and on here, but that basically covers it, right? David has not looked after his neighbor's good. He has sought his own good, and actually at the expense of his neighbor. And this is a breach of the commandment. So the 10th commandment: "You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or his manservant or maidservant, or his ox or his donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor." What does this mean? This means that we should fear and love God, so that we do not tempt away our neighbor's spouse or workers, nor deprive him of anything that is his, but encourage his wife and workers to remain loyal to him, and seek to have his property stay in his possession. Right. Why has God given this commandment? God has given this commandment to protect a person's means of making a living, and I think even more than that, means of having a life, and family and all sorts of things. I think this is thinking in more monetary terms, and our story was a bit different there. So that's part of the issue with our story. But anyway, forbids me to do anything that would interfere with my neighbor's ability to make a living, or have a life, and ruin that life. What does God require of you in the 10th commandment? God requires that I sincerely wish my neighbors all good, and rejoice in their success, and help them keep what they own or have, and part of their things. So right, we don't want to be stealing what is other people's, right? And I know it sounds weird to say like a spouse belongs to someone else, but I belong to my wife belongs to me. There's that kind of sense where we belong to each other, and to steal someone's spouse is stealing something dear and near to them, kind of like that ewe lamb. Do not forget to do good and to share with others, for such sacrifices God is pleased. How does Jesus look upon what you do for others? Jesus looks upon what I do for others as something that I do for him. I tell you the truth, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers of mine, you did for me. How should I guard against covetousness? Or I should guard against covetousness by asking God to make me content with what I have, by wishing my neighbors every blessing, and by helping them keep what is theirs. 1 Timothy 6:6. Godliness with contentment is great gain. Hebrews 13. Keep your lives free from the love of money, and be content with what you have, because God has said, "Never will I leave you, never will I forsake you." I mean, that was probably a bit of a longer lesson there today. Just hope that, that when we have these desires, when we have these temptations that can harm our neighbors, that we'd make sure that we're seeking their good above our own, and that we'd push those down and realize they're sinful. And yeah, especially not allow sin to get its grips on us and to kind of develop into something worse and worse. The initial desire is sinful, of course. It comes from a sinful heart, but as we let that develop, the wounds get worse and worse, right? As we withdraw from confession. There's been a few, pastors recently that have fallen quite miserably, and oftentimes, right, they did something sinful, and that could have maybe been a smaller thing, but they didn't confess, they didn't repent, and it just grew, right? The hiding of it, the lying, the deception, until it became such a thing that it was terrible. So, and this probably happens, though they're in the spotlight, they're kind of celebrity pastors. These kind of things on a smaller level happen to us all. And we have a God who forgives, and we have a community that forgives. Even heinous acts. Maybe there's still punishment, maybe there's still a consequence. We don't get rid of that, but we still forgive because our Savior has forgiven us. So let us be a society of the forgiven who do forgive, and then an open society that wants to come to the light and put all things before Christ. Blessings to you. Bye.